How's it going, everyone? And welcome to another episode of Animal Talk Podcast with me, Ryan Ferguson.
And me, Ayrton King. Hey, Ryan, how are you?
I am doing okay, thanks, Ayrton, I think.
You're surviving. I think I'm at that level after this last week as well. I think we've chatted off the podcast and we know where we're both at. So maybe you want to tell us a little bit about how your last week was.
Yeah, absolutely. I think surviving is definitely the word to say. Yeah, so it's been a bit of a challenge. I mean, last week during the week seemed to go quite well. We had some challenges with scheduling and trying to schedule a recording for the podcast. And then things went pear-shaped at the end of the week and it was not great, to be honest. It was all about, trying to deal with a personal issue that had cropped up on the afternoon of Friday. In the last prior week, I had sent one of my precious pooches up to Johannesburg to live with one of my friends there, who gets along way better there. That's technically his father, so he's a lot better up there. But it had been about 7 days since he'd been up there into a new area, and something happened, and somebody left the gate open by mistake, and he managed to escape. And because he doesn't know the area, he just pretty much disappeared. So it was a lot. I was stuck in KZN, and all the action was happening in Germiston, Johannesburg. And I can say that being stuck in a different province 8 hours away is very difficult when you know that you could potentially, as my understanding of animal behavior could potentially help to find him if I was on the ground, but I had to try and use my ability to explain things while I was far away. So, yeah, very challenging, very difficult when it is, you hear about people losing their dogs and you see posts about it and you're like, oh, I really hope they find a dog, but it doesn't hit home until it actually really hits home and it's you that's dealing with it. I can say, and you and I have chatted about this already, when your pet passes away, it's pretty final. You kind of just go with the grief and deal with it, and you get over it. You don't fully get over it. I mean, there's still a part of you that still grieves forever, but
yeah,
you can move past it.
But it's definite.
Yeah,
it's
like it's happened. Okay, but when you lose a pet, and it's the unknown and not knowing where it is it okay? What is it doing? Is it still alive? Is it not alive? That's worse than not knowing.
Yeah, and also what are they going through,
Exactly. I think we had planned to record Friday evening, and I pretty much said to you, I think let's just let's see Saturday. Hopefully we find our child.
Yeah.
And still on Saturday there was nothing. And I said to you, I don't know if I would be able to even sit through a podcast to deal with that. So we kind of postponed it and kind of made the decision to try and focus on me and my family side of things and not put a podcast out that week. So I would like to just apologize to all the listeners for that. But I needed to focus on what we were trying to achieve and trying to get our boy back. And to be honest, from Friday evening through to Sunday morning, I barely remember anything. That's how much stress I was going through and how much my brain kind of cut everything out. And amazing how brains work. They just kind of go, oh, that was too much trauma. Let's forget about the whole thing. I don't even know what I was doing. I can't remember barely anything about the whole of Saturday.
Yeah.
Luckily,
it's very traumatic.
After a lot of ups and downs and fake, which is crazy to me, fake messages from people saying that they have the dog. That's that's something that people actually need to realize if ever you lose a pet. If you put anything out on social media or WhatsApp groups or things like that, you are going to find you're going to get fake stuff coming through. There's scams that come through, and they can be pretty believable.
Yeah, be careful.
Luckily, we had made contact with a professional search unit, which was going to potentially assist us. Unfortunately, they were still busy with a lot of searches and could only assist us on Sunday afternoon, but they were guiding us through some things, and we received some messages and put it through them, and they were like, nope, this is a scam, look at this. And word for word was exactly the same as what they had picked up before. People saying that my domestic worker works at someone's house, they have your dog, she doesn't want to lose her job, so I can tell you exactly where it is and you can go there and fetch the dog. Then when you respond and ask for more details, they're like, well, you can give us 1,000 rand and we'll do it for you. And that's when you know something is up. So it gives you false hope, which is not nice when you're dealing with something like that. False hope is horrible.
Sure.
Because you think, you can't find him, and now people are saying they've got him, and at least you've got some hope.
That's just crazy.
And then it all falls down again. So it was a very up and down situation. But on the positive side, and I've never felt this amount of relief in my life before.
Yeah, tell us the good news.
Yeah, exactly. Sunday morning, I was on the phone to my friend, and they got a WhatsApp message while I was on the phone to say, it was on a WhatsApp group in that area, to say, I've seen this dog running down a certain road. So, of course, there was mayhem, phone dropped, keys, grab car, go. And I'm sitting here wondering what's going on and what's happening. Luckily, about 8 minutes later, I get a WhatsApp message going, we've got him, and a picture of him sitting in the back of the car. And the relief of just knowing that he's safe and back it's indescribable. I can't even, after sitting through days of wondering, he was out for 2 days, not knowing where he is. That relief was just crazy. I literally just sat there and just sat there, just thinking, because I couldn't believe it that we found him. And yeah, he's back, he's safe. I wouldn't say he's not, injured in any way. He was, unfortunately. He's a dog that's a little bit of a stressor, and he was pretty much running, I would say, 24/7. Trying to find his way back. He was so close to finding his way back, but just couldn't make it. And his paws were a little bit ripped up from running continuously on the roads. He managed to cross a whole lot of roads where people had noticed or had spotted him before, which we were really mind blown about, him crossing major, 3-lane roads. But anyway, he's safely home.
Yeah, like intersections.
Yeah, he's safely home, and he's happy. We all believe that this dog has 9 lives. I'm not sure if I've told any of the listeners before, and I might not have, because this was in between the first set of episodes of the podcast and now. This is a rescue dog. It's one of our first rescue dogs from the SPCA. And 1 year he got bitten by a boomslang. That was quite traumatic, as it be, and there was a whole thing. It was in the newspaper, and struggling to get anti-venom. He almost didn't make it. We managed to get him anti-venom just in time, and it was a year and 2 days short of the date when it happened, a year later, that he got bitten again by a boomslang. And if you don't know, boomslang, they're not known to bite. They have back fangs right at the back of their mouth, so they kind of have to chew on you to try and bite you. And they're quite docile, so I don't know how this happened twice in a row, but it did. Their venom is hemotoxic, so it affects your blood and it thins the blood. So the first signs we saw of there being a problem was that he would be bleeding from places where you would not normally find some dog bleeding, like from the lips, definitely from where the bite mark is and those places. And we had done a lot of stuff with getting the antivenom down from Johannesburg to KZN for the initial first dose that he got the year before. And they had sent 2 vials down. This was antivenom that had already expired but could definitely be used for animals. It was brought down for free, and Netcare assisted with transporting it via aircraft from OR Tambo to King Shaka, and then we had a volunteer go and grab it and pick it up. So that was quite a whole thing. So I could definitely talk about that whole situation on a different podcast if anybody's interested to know exactly how all of that happened. There were a lot of people involved in that, very interesting and also very stressful situation. But then the second year, I remembered.
Yeah, I think that would be an interesting topic.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Definitely. So I'm happy to do that, if ever anybody wants to hear about that. But the second time, I remembered that we had left a vial at the veterinary clinic. I said to them, keep the vial in the fridge. You never know. You might have a dog that comes in with a similar situation, and then you can use the vial, not knowing that it would be my dog the next year. Same dog again. Anyway.
Like, hi, me again.
Yeah, it's us. When I phoned the vet, she was like, you joking? I'm like, no, definitely not joking. So anyway, he got his second dose of antivenom, and he's been all good since then. And we've tried to keep him away from wormslung as best we can. No wormslung in Joburg now, so he's pretty much safe from that. But definitely 9 lives escaping and running across main roads and surviving 2 wormslung bites. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I'm gonna go with that.
I think he needs his own book. I can already see like a picture of him on a book cover in like exclusive books. I think you need to write that book.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. I must pull up my Facebook.
Like the trials and tribulations.
Yeah, exactly. I must pull up my Facebook explanation of what happened on that fateful day of the first bite of the wormslung, because I pretty much wrote a book all about it. Also just thanking everybody for their assistance. So I must pull that up again. And I think I must we'll record a podcast all about that. That'll be really cool to chat about and give information. We can also help people in case, you never know, somebody might have a similar situation, and then they'll know how to kind of navigate it.
Yeah, how to go about. Yeah, for sure. So with all of that said, do you maybe want to, leading on from your really busy week last week, do you want to lead us into what our topic is for this particular episode?
Yeah, so I think it's quite fitting in a way that the topic that we had decided prior to all of this happening was this topic. And the topic is dealing with loss. We all in this industry have dealt with loss way more times than we ever would want to think about. And it's unfortunate that our animals that we look after don't live as long as we do. And I think
it's a really sucky part.
It is the worst part. It's also goes to anybody who has pets at home. We all, throughout our life, have lost many pets. If you've had pets as a kid, you've lost those pets already. And then maybe as an adult, in the beginning of your adult life, you've lost your own set again, and you might be busy with your next group of pets that you have, and it's an ongoing process. And it's the same in our industry, in our facilities that we work in. We've got quite a lot of animals that we look after, but navigating that loss, I think, is something that we can definitely chat about.
Yeah, for sure. I think, as you said, I love how when you started your story, it was like, our dog went missing, and then as the story built up, you were referring to your dog as your child. And I think that's so important, because for all of us that work with animals or have animals at home, they really are not just an animal, they are family. Whether they're at work or your pets at home, they become such a huge part of your life. And like you said, Ryne, growing up, so many of us have pets, and of course we're going to outlive them, which is really the sad part. But I think one of the things that always has helped me whenever I've lost an animal is always just when you lose them, or even in the process of, often with animals, that time is getting closer. It becomes really difficult on, how to manage the situation, how to manage your emotions as well. One of the things I've learned from, unfortunately, experiencing a lot of loss with animals is leading into that time where it's getting near that animal is gonna go pretty soon, is to just try and spend as much time with them as you possibly can, because I think one of the things I've learned is you will definitely regret it if you don't. So always just, if you know that there's a particular animal that has a underlying issue that is going to lead to, for instance, the animal being needing to be put down, it's just really important and really special to just take some time. And, our lives are so busy sometimes. If it's a pet at home, for example, take some leave and just spend some time with them. It's something that you definitely won't regret doing, because I think looking back, one thing I always think of is with like so many of my pets is, I just wish I could spend one more day with them. I'm not asking for a lot of time, just one more day where we could go for a walk, on the beach or in the dog park.
Yeah.
So always just, and that also really like humbles me and brings me back and puts things into perspective for me now, that, I've got all these animals that are currently still in my life, and to just enjoy every day that we still have with them, basically, while they're here. Because as you said, they're not going to be here forever.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the sucky part. It's unfortunately something we've signed up for as animal keepers. And then, there's the flip side of that is sometimes we lose pets, like in your situation. Thankfully, he was found. But there is situations where that loss is very unexpected. Sometimes it's definite, sometimes it's not. In those situations, they're a little bit trickier to navigate, because, there's no like certainty of if you're going to see that animal again or if they're going to pull through. So yeah, it's a very tricky time that you have to go through. I know when you messaged me on Sunday, Ryan, to say that he's been found, I think I probably messaged like 10 other colleagues that I had informed of your story. And we were all kind of like, I was working this weekend, so I was at work, and it was like a little celebration, like, oh my word, he's been found. And it's also put things into perspective for me. So many of us are on social media.
Yeah.
And if you scroll through Facebook, you are going to come across a post of someone's pet that's gone missing or an animal that's been found. And so often I think I've overlooked them. But this last week in particular, there's been so many posts that I've seen that I've actually just stopped and paused and looked at and actually, read and like, is this in my area? Have I actually seen this animal? If it has been in my area,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm actually thankful to you for, because I don't think I would, be that in tune with that if this situation didn't come about and we weren't so close, because that's something I've learned from you.
Yeah, I've also picked that up, going now through my social media and adding myself to so many different groups now. I'm now open and more privy to these situations where pets are being lost. And now when I go through, I always, exactly like you do now, I'm checking and seeing, oh, is it this in my area? Is there something I can do to help? Or can I just share it? Are there people in that area that I know that could potentially see this? Because all of that helps, and it helped so much in our situation. It was a split second where somebody spotted him, and they were able to communicate with us, and we found him. So that could happen for somebody else, and it could really make a huge difference in their life.
Yeah, for sure.
But going back onto our animals passing away, you said you spend a little bit more extra time with them, knowing that it's their time. But we also have the situations, and I've been through so many of them, where we don't know it's the time. where something happens
Yeah.
just out of the blue. I've had that happen personally, unfortunately, a very recent one a couple of years ago, and also a couple of times in the facilities that I've worked in. And that's also hard because you don't get that time to spend with that animal, to say goodbye or to cherish those memories. You have to go back on memories that you've had to cherish those memories.
Yeah.
And again, calling my dogs my kids, as we mentioned earlier, that's exactly what happened a couple of years ago. I had a very close bond with two of my dogs, been with me through a lot. And unfortunately, they were somehow poisoned by someone or something, and only got to spend a very, very short time with them before they died. And they were not in a good space at the time, and lost both of them, unfortunately, in the middle of the night. And that was really hard to deal with, because when you've had them for so long and they've been through so much with you, and that's the big thing about pets and dogs, they're kind of, you are their world and they are your world, especially when you're on your own.
And they are yours.
Yeah, when you're living on your own with them, they are your only world at the time. And it's so important to remember those times with them. And they helped me through so much. So losing them is always not easy. And then coming back to, working in a facility where you lose an animal just out of the blue. I was working really, really hard on my second spotted eagle owl in my previous position at Crockwold. And I had raised him from a 2-week-old chick and spent a lot of time with him, building a bond with him, using him for demonstrations for groups of kids, flying him over them, seeing everybody's faces, how amazed they were with him. And I really could trust him. He was able to just stay. I didn't have to have any equipment on him to keep him on my glove. He was just free held on the glove. No securing or anything. He would just stay on the glove. I trusted him. He trusted me that nothing would go wrong while he's sitting on the glove. A couple of times he'd bounce off but come back, but I could really trust him. And then also one morning out of the blue, got to work and he's sort of lying on his side, kicking his legs to the side, and you don't know what to do. You're in a spin because now you're panicking. And I've saved many a wild species of owl from poisoning and things like that in the past, but unfortunately I was just too late for our little guy. We don't know how. It could be somebody around the area using rodent poison, and rodents are moving around all the time. But it was definitely some sort of poisoning. So it was not easy to go through that, because I didn't get to, the day before I had spent quite a bit of time with him with an education side of things and showing some people how he flies. He even did a whole thing where he chose people's names for a draw by jumping onto a cup, which was really cool, a couple of days or weeks before that. But yeah, when he was gone, it felt like I lost a piece of me. I worked with him daily, and that's not an easy thing to deal with, is when you've been working with them so closely and they sort of an extension of your arm.
Yeah.
And your passion for your job. And then in a split second, they're gone.
Yeah, I think, like you're saying, especially when it's animals you're working with every day. And I think especially for people that are doing, training, I think when we're doing animal training, we always say that relationship is everything. We spoke about in one of our other episodes, positive reinforcement, and how you have to have that bank account that's always in the positive. And a lot of the time we're using just time, bonding with that animal, having a really positive and wonderful relationship with that animal. And then all of a sudden that animal's gone and you're kind of like just there, with this relationship that's just there, and there's no animal that you've been spending all this time working with that's just gone. and it's really awful. But I think, we sign up to do it all over again when a new animal comes into our lives. And I think it's also really important to just take a moment and always just think about those animals that we have lost and all the things that they've taught us. And I know the one thing that I really strive to do in my everyday is to take everything I've learned from all the animals that I've worked with that aren't around and kind of honor them by using those lessons that they've taught me to improve the care of the animals that are still under my care today. And there'll be certain reminders, and I'm sure you have the same, there'll be certain reminders in certain behaviors or certain things that happen. You're like, oh, I've dealt with this behavior before. And it will take you back to the memory of another animal that taught you how to manage that certain behavior or taught you how to train a certain behavior. And it's always like a really nice, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because it's sometimes, it can be really painful, but it's also a really nice reminder of that particular animal that's taught you so much. And that's why I always say animal trainers and animal keepers and pet owners, we can all write a book, because we've got so many teachers over the years that are through the animals that we get to share our lives with.
Yeah, I fully believe that we're on this planet for a very short period of time, unfortunately. But the experiences that we experience through our interactions with the animals that we work with and interact with can make a difference in the future animals that we work with, and the experiences that we experience and teach others from our experiences can make a huge difference in the future generations of animal trainers, educators, animal care, welfare. So all of these interactions with the animals that we have in our care can make a huge difference for the future.
For sure. Yeah. I think another thing that we can also maybe touch on is, and it does go back to welfare, but I've seen it a lot with pets, for example, because the lines do get a bit blurred there. And it's when an animal is really going into a situation where they are in a lot of pain, or they've got a lot of underlying issues that's causing the animal a lot of discomfort. And often, the owners want to keep them around for their own emotions, because they can't seem to, come to terms with the fact that they're going to lose their best friend. But in those moments, it's also really important to also still honor, your best friend by making sure that the decisions that you're making is by putting them first and putting their condition first. And, I'm also speaking from experience here, that it's when that moment comes where you've as the owner, as the best friend, have to make the decision on that animal's life, it becomes extremely difficult, because sometimes, it's not just you, it's your family as well, your family members. And quite often it's very easy to say, no, they can make it. We can do this, this, and this. And maybe they'll pull through and maybe they'll live a bit of a better life. But I think it's really important to also just raise this in this episode, is that always just, think about your pet or the animal that you work with. And when making that decision, just always, try keep them in mind and make sure that the decision that's being made is based on their current condition, their current, state of mind, where they're at. Yeah, always remember that whatever the decision is, that they really need to be put first. I think it's really important, and it's a really important way to honor them and respect them, is that when that decision needs to be made, that they are ultimately the ones that, you're thinking of, because it's very easy to, put your emotions into it and think about yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I was just trying to say, you have to take your emotions out of it, unfortunately, in that moment. And I'm not going to say I'm perfect at it.
Me neither.
Definitely. I've been through I've been through so many times where I question my decision on that type of stuff, but at the end of the day, you do make the right decision for the animal. It may not feel like the right decision at the time, but it normally is the right decision because your gut tells you what to do. I've always followed my gut when it comes to that and how I feel about the situation. And I think that's quite important to always remember. Take your emotions out and make sure that you're doing what's right for the animal and its well-being. Everything at the moment, if you read on social media or anywhere at the moment with regards to our industry, it's all about welfare and improving welfare for our animals. And you've just got to remember that when in that situation, that it's all about the welfare, quality of life. But, joining on to this, there's also a support structure for you in the form of your colleagues and family members. If it's a pet or even if it's a work-related situation, you've got your family members to support you. But it's so important to have some people that you can talk to. For example, when I was going through this situation this last weekend, I at least had you to chat to about it. And it makes a huge difference. And I'm very grateful for that because it puts you into a situation where you're able to voice how you're feeling, and that other person doesn't even really have to say anything. They just have to be there to listen to you. And it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
Because it helps you process the situation so much better. So yes, find those colleagues, find those family members that you can chat to about it. It really does help you push through and get through a lot of these situations. We've all been through them, especially for us that's in the industry. We've been through them a lot of times. Straight after when our dog was found and everything was all hunky-dory again, I was receiving WhatsApp messages and phone calls from other colleagues from all over, not just South Africa, all over the world, saying, so sorry to hear about it, so glad that it got him back. They've also had this type of experience and this, and they really know what I was going through. And it was just so nice to hear that I wasn't alone in that situation. There's people that have experienced it as well and how they've navigated through it. So it is important to talk to each other and understand how other people have gone through things, because you can learn from that for future and moving forward and getting through your grief.
Yeah, the other thing, not only having those people, but as you said, it's important to talk.
Yeah.
When you're going through something like this, it's so easy to just bottle it up inside, and you don't want your colleagues at work to know that you're having a hard time going through dealing with loss. But I think it's so important, and like you did, you chose to speak. And sometimes, dealing with loss, that's actually the first step, is find somebody that you trust and speak to them about it, and speak to them about what you're experiencing, what you're going through. You don't have to, deal with it all on your own, because it can be a lot. So, yeah. So thanks for talking to me, Ryne.
Thanks for being there for me. That was very helpful. Appreciate it. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too.
Any final thoughts, Ayrton, on this topic?
I think, just from this podcast, I hope that everybody realizes that you can make a difference, not only in an animal's life, but in somebody else's life. It's one of the topics that really bridges the gap between animals and humans, because it's something that we all experience, and something that we kind of all share in is loss. And it doesn't have to be, obviously it is quite a sad topic, but it doesn't have to be. Celebrate those animals that have been in your life, and celebrate the lessons that you've learned from them, especially in a team environment. Cherish those moments you've had with those animals, and make it a connecting point. because loss is something we all experience and we all go through. And especially in a team environment, if you're experiencing loss from an animal, I can guarantee you your other colleagues are as well. So just share in that moment and, try be that positive voice amongst the team. I think that's my advice.
Definitely. I second that. Very good advice. Thank you, Ayrton. And if you guys are interested in getting in touch with us at Animal Talk Podcast, please feel free to contact us. We do have an email address. It's animal.talk201@gmail.com. Please send us a mail. We like to hear from you guys. Let us know what you think of our podcast, any topic suggestions, even if you want to talk about this podcast and discuss some things that maybe you went through. And then you can also get hold of us on our social media, right?
Yes, we are pretty much everywhere. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn. For our YouTube and Instagram accounts, it is Animal Talk Podcast _ZA. So you can go check us out on our platforms. And also please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, share our various social media pages, and help us to just reach even more animal keepers, animal lovers out there, so that we can share our knowledge, but also, just share our various topics that we have and get feedback and ultimately connect everybody, because that's really what we're trying to do.
Yeah, that's so important. Thanks for that, Ayrton. It's really important that you guys subscribe to our YouTube, like, comment. All of that helps try and get it out there to everyone. We really like to also hear from you. Tell us a little bit more about what you think about the podcast and maybe some ideas that you have. So you're welcome to contact us on any of those platforms, YouTube or even email. And of course, everyone, stay safe. And remember, animals are our passion.
Thanks everybody for tuning into this episode, and I really hope that you've learned something new. And remember that our quality of care is their quality of life. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Just check. Let me just run a test on my side, but it definitely can't be my side because everything seems to be running fine this side.
I can even hear the hardy-dars.